This man is arguably the most well-known medieval monarch in British history. Brutal beheadings, devious divorces make him incredibly hard to forget, as he ruled with an iron fist that was often filled with luxurious food. Let's take a look at the life, the actions and the mishappenings of somebody who could only be pleased by one thing: the birth of a son. You know, good old copper-nose Henry Tudor, or as you will know him, Henry VIII. Henry was born in 1491 in a place called Greenwich, which is in southern modern-day London. He was named after his father, Henry VII, who had won the Battle of Bosworth Fields 6 years earlier in 1485. He had one brother, Arthur, and two sisters, Mary and Margaret. Arthur, being the oldest boy in the family, was due to take over the crown when Henry VII died. However, he was a sickly young chap, which wouldn't put him in a good position to take up that role in the future. Although Henry was known for his incredible size in adulthood, potentially 140 kilograms at some points, that's the same weight as an adult gorilla. He was known to be a lover of sports in his youth, making him both healthy and athletic. However, at the age of 10, Henry's life and destiny changed overnight. His older brother, Arthur, died. That meant Henry was no longer going to take up the role in the church that his father had wanted for him, but he would become the next king of England. And he only had to wait 7 years to get his hands on that crown. Henry ascended to the throne in 1509 at just 17 years old. Bear in mind that nowadays, 17-year-olds can only just drive, never mind rule an entire country. Henry just got to work straight away. One of the first things he did was find his dead older brother's old wife and marry her. This was Catherine of Aragon. A common reoccurring theme for Henry throughout his life was his yearning for a male heir, somebody who could take over from him when he died. It needed to be a boy. But Catherine only gave him a girl, Mary I, who would later become known as Bloody Mary. And Henry wasn't best pleased. In the end, Henry got completely bored of Catherine of Aragon because, she didn't give him what he wanted. She just couldn't give him a son. Although he had Mary, it just wasn't good enough. So, he went to the Pope and asked for special permission to get a divorce so they wouldn't be married anymore. This is how it kind of went.
Yo, can I get a divorce?
No.
Please?
Nope.
Pretty please?
No, it's wrong.
But dude, she won't give birth to a boy.
Don't care.
Why not?
Marriage is sacred.
But what about Anne Boleyn?
Who's Anne Boleyn?
My new wife.
Oh, nice, Wait, what do you mean, new wife?
Turns out, Henry just married somebody in secret anyway. Anne Boleyn, who was one of Catherine of Aragon's maids, was the next to be the apple of King Henry's wandering eyes. The king was incensed with the Pope and the Catholic Church in general, so he did what, anybody would do. He just made his own religion and declared himself supreme head of this brand new Church of England. If you didn't accept Big H as the new head of the church, you were now punishable by death due to the Treasons Act that he had just put into power. Well, Catherine was old news. It's all about Anne now. Well, for a bit anyway. If you ask anybody about Henry VIII, they will tell you about his many wives. 6 of them, to be in fact. And while I could go into meticulous detail about every single one of them, I would be here for ages. So here's just a quick overview of them.
1. Catherine of Aragon.
First wife. Originally, she was married to Arthur, Henry's older brother. She gave Henry his first child in Mary I. How did it end? Divorce.
2. Anne Boleyn.
Wife number 2. Met whilst married to Catherine of Aragon, but no son, no head. She was beheaded with a sword rather than an axe because Henry wanted it to be less painful. She did give birth to Elizabeth I, the final Tudor queen.
3. Jane Seymour.
Numero tres. Henry's true love for one reason only. She gave him a son, Edward. Unfortunately, she died due to health complications following this birth.
4. Anne of Cleves.
Number 4. Henry had actually fell in love with Anne over a portrait, which was a painting that he had seen of her. However, it wasn't what he thought. He ended up divorcing her because of apparent ugliness, bad breath, and general bad odour.
5. Catherine Howard.
5. By now, Henry was approaching 50 years old, and Catherine was just 19 when they got married. Unfortunately though, Henry found out that his close aide, Thomas Culpeper, was just a bit more than a cousin to Mrs. Howard. She lost her head 3 months later.
6. Catherine Parr.
The sixth and final lucky lady was Catherine Parr. She managed to outlive Henry, but unfortunately she died just about a year and a half after Henry died due to childbirth complications. After all of this, you must remember the way to remember them. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Learn this and you'll know all of the lucky wives off the top of your head in no time. Although King Henry VIII was most known for his quite frankly crazy love life, there are a lot more interesting facts about him. He was an intriguing man for many reasons. His love of sports such as jousting and hunting, his love for composing music, and his absolute need to show how filthy rich he was at all times. He would often throw lavish, expensive parties with the most expensive clothes, the most peculiar foods, and the most beautiful people. However, if you got into his bad books, let's just say you probably wouldn't survive. It is believed that Henry had between 56 and 70,000 people executed during his 38-year reign. So here's some maths for you. If we take that larger estimate, 70,000, and divide it by 365, we can find that on average 1,842 people were executed every year. That's about 5 a day. Safe to say this is somebody you would not want to annoy. As I mentioned at the start of this video, Henry was certainly no small man. Quite the opposite, in fact. If we look at his later pieces of clothing, we can see that he would have been about 6 foot, but weighed 28 stone. Unfortunately, this led to his demise, as he died at the age of 55 in 1547, due to obesity and health complications as a result of that. He was buried in St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, next to Jane Seymour, the person he loved most due to the fact that she gave him everything he'd ever wanted. A son to take over from him when he died. But unfortunately, that didn't go too well for Edward, but that's a story for another time. Thank you for learning about Henry VIII with me, and I will see you another time.